dead of night, a young couple named Sarah and Mark found themselves driving through a desolate stretch of road in the countryside. The moon was hidden behind thick clouds, casting an eerie darkness upon the landscape. As they navigated the winding road, a dense fog began to roll in, reducing visibility to mere feet ahead. Unease settled over them as they continued their journey, their headlights cutting through the mist like feeble beacons. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the fog, standing motionless in the middle of the road. Sarah gasped, and Mark slammed on the brakes, narrowly avoiding a collision. They peered through the windshield, their hearts pounding in their chests. The figure was a woman, dressed in tattered clothing, and her face obscured by long, unkempt hair. She stared at them with vacant eyes that seemed to hold an unspeakable sorrow. Feeling a mix of concern and fear, Sarah rolled down her window and called out to the woman. "Are you all right? Do you need help?" The woman's lips twitched into a haunting smile as she whispered in a voice that sent chills down her spines. "Help me. Find my way home." Without warning, she vanished into thin air, leaving Sarah and Mark bewildered and terrified. They exchanged nervous glances before deciding to continue driving cautiously through the fog. As they pressed on, strange occurrences began to unfold around them. Shadows danced along the edges of their vision, whispering voices echoed through the car, and phantom figures appeared fleetingly in their rearview mirror. Panic gripped them tightly as they realized they were trapped in a nightmarish realm. Desperate for answers and an escape from this terrifying ordeal, they stumbled upon an old gas station seemingly abandoned for years. Its flickering neon sign reads, "Last Stop," in faded letters. With no other options available to them, they cautiously entered. Inside, the air was heavy with an oppressive silence. Shelves lined with dusty cans and expired snacks stood as a testament to the station's forgotten existence. As they explored further, they discovered a hidden room at the back, its door slightly ajar. Curiosity compelled them to push it open, revealing a dimly lit space filled with old photographs and newspaper clippings. The articles chronicled a series of mysterious disappearances that had plagued the area for decades. Among the faces in the photographs, Sarah and Mark recognized the woman they had encountered on the road. Their blood ran cold as they realized they were not alone in the room. A presence loomed behind them, its icy breath grazing their necks. They turned slowly to face a ghastly apparition, a spectral figure with hollow eyes and a twisted smile. "You've stumbled into my domain," it said, its voice echoing through their minds. "Now you shall join me in eternal torment." Sarah and Mark screamed in terror as the ghostly figure lunged towards them, engulfing them in darkness. The next morning, their car was found abandoned near the gas station. Search parties scoured the area, but found no trace of Sarah or Mark. Locals whispered tales of a haunted road where lost souls were doomed to wander forever. Deep in the heart of a remote countryside, there existed a road that was whispered about in hushed tones. It was said to be cursed, haunted by vengeful spirits seeking retribution for their untimely deaths. Few dared to venture upon it, especially after nightfall when the darkness seemed to come alive. One stormy night, a young man named Ethan found himself driving along this treacherous road. Rain poured relentlessly from the sky, obscuring his vision and making the journey even more perilous. As he navigated through the winding path, his headlights caught a glimpse of something horrifying, a trail of blood leading into the woods. Curiosity mingled with fear as Ethan pulled over and stepped out of his car. The rain soaked him instantly, but he couldn't resist following the macabre trail. Each step brought him deeper into the forest, where shadows danced ominously and the air grew thick with an unsettling presence. Suddenly, he heard rustling behind him. He turned around to find himself surrounded by a group of figures emerging from the darkness. Their eyes glowed with an otherworldly light as they advanced towards him, their hands dripping with blood. Ethan's heart raced as he realized he had stumbled upon a gathering of malevolent spirits. Panic consumed him as they lunged at him, their ethereal forms passing through his body like icy tendrils. He desperately fought to escape their clutches, but found himself trapped in their spectral grip. As they closed in on him, their whispers filled his ears, a chorus of anguished voices recounting tales of betrayal and violence. The weight of their pain pressed upon him, threatening to suffocate his very soul. Just when all hope seemed lost, a blinding light pierced through the darkness. A figure appeared before Ethan, a woman cloaked in radiant white robes. Her presence exuded an aura of calm and power that sent the vengeful spirits recoiling. With a wave of her hand, the woman banished them back into the shadows from whence they came. The air cleared, and Ethan found himself gasping for breath, his body trembling with exhaustion and relief. The woman approached him, her eyes filled with compassion. "You have stumbled upon a realm where restless spirits seek vengeance," she explained. "But fear not, for I am a guardian of this place. It is my duty to protect those who unknowingly wander into their domain." Ethan thanked her profusely, his voice shaking with gratitude. She smiled gently before disappearing into the night, leaving him alone on the cursed road. From that day forward, Ethan never spoke of his encounter to anyone, but he carried the memory with him, a reminder of the darkness that lurked in the world and the unseen forces that fought to maintain balance. In the dead of night, a family named the Harrisons embarked on a journey to their new home in a remote countryside. The moon was hidden behind thick clouds, casting an eerie darkness upon the landscape. As they navigated the winding road, a dense fog began to roll in, reducing visibility to mere feet ahead. Unease settled over them as they continued their journey, their headlights cutting through the mist like feeble beacons. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the fog, stumbling towards them. Sarah, the mother, gasped, and John, the father, slammed on the brakes, narrowly avoiding a collision. They peered through the windshield, their hearts pounding in their chests. The figure was a man, disheveled and covered in dirt and blood. His eyes were vacant and his movements erratic. Fear gripped them as they realized he was not alone. From all directions, more figures emerged from the shadows, zombies with rotting flesh and insatiable hunger. They surrounded the car, pounding on its windows and doors with relentless force. Panic consumed the family as they realized escape seemed impossible. John desperately tried to restart the car, while Sarah clutched her children tightly in her arms. The zombies pressed closer, their moans filling the air with an eerie chorus of death. Just when all hope seemed lost, the engine roared to life. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, John grounded the accelerator and swerved through the horde of undead creatures. The zombies clawed at the car as it sped away, leaving behind a trail of chaos and desperation. As they drove further into the night, they encountered more pockets of zombies along the desolate road. Each encounter tested their resolve and pushed them to their limits. The family fought back with whatever weapons they could find, a tire iron, a baseball bat, desperate to survive. But no matter how many zombies they defeated or how far they drove, it seemed the undead were relentless in their pursuit. The family's hope dwindled as exhaustion and fear threatened to consume them. Just when they thought everything was lost, they stumbled upon an old farmhouse standing alone in the darkness. With no other options available to them, they sought refuge within its decaying walls. The creaking floorboards and flickering candlelight added to the eerie atmosphere. Inside, they discovered a hidden room, a sanctuary untouched by time. It was filled with ancient books and artifacts, hinting at a dark history. As they searched for answers, they stumbled upon a journal that spoke of a curse that had befallen the land, a curse that brought the dead back to life. Realization dawned upon them. Their new home was built upon cursed grounds, awakening the dormant evil that lurked beneath. The zombies were not random creatures, but the vengeful spirits of those who had perished on this land. With newfound determination, the family delved deeper into the journal's pages, seeking a way to break the curse and free themselves from this nightmare. They discovered a ritual, a dangerous and risky endeavor, but their desperation left them with no other choice. As midnight approached, they gathered the necessary ingredients and performed the ritual in the heart of their haunted home. The air crackled with energy as they chanted ancient incantations, their voices trembling with hope and fear. In a blinding flash of light, the curse was broken. The zombies disintegrated into dust, leaving behind only echoes of their torment. Exhausted but victorious, the family emerged from their ordeal forever changed. They left that cursed house behind, vowing never to return. Their journey had taught them the fragility of life and the strength of familial bonds. And as they drove away from that desolate road, they carried with them a newfound appreciation for every breath they took. In a small town nestled deep within the woods, there existed a path that whispered about in hushed tones. It was said to be a path of decadence and temptation, where the spirits of darkness lured unsuspecting souls to their doom. Few dared to venture upon it, for its allure was as captivating as it was deadly. One fateful night, a group of young friends decided to explore the forbidden path. They were carefree and full of life, seeking adventure and excitement. Ignoring the warnings of the townsfolk, they set off with music blaring from their speakers, drowning out any sense of caution. As they walked along the path, laughter filled the air and joy radiated from their faces. Unbeknownst to them, their merriment echoed through the trees, reaching the ears of an ancient entity known as decency. This spirit had long guarded the path, calling out to those who strayed from righteousness. With each step they took, the path grew darker and more treacherous. Shadows danced ominously around them, whispering temptations into their ears. But the young friends remained oblivious to the sinister presence that surrounded them. As they continued on their reckless journey, they stumbled upon a clearing bathed in an ethereal glow. In its center stood a figure cloaked in darkness, a manifestation of decency itself. Its voice resonated through their minds like a haunting melody. "Turn back," it warned, its voice both alluring and chilling. "This path leads only to destruction and despair." But intoxicated by their own desires and blinded by youthful arrogance, they dismissed the warning as mere superstition. They laughed in defiance and continued down the forbidden path. With each passing moment, the atmosphere grew heavier and more oppressive. The once vibrant forest transformed into a twisted labyrinth of thorns and decay. The music that once brought them joy now seemed distorted and discordant, filling their hearts with unease. Suddenly, the path began to shift beneath their feet. The ground cracked open, revealing a chasm of darkness. One by one, the young friends fell into its depths, their screams swallowed by the abyss. As they plummeted into the void, they caught glimpses of their own reflections, distorted and twisted versions of themselves. Their faces contorted with regret and fear as they realized the consequences of their choices. In that moment of terror, they finally understood the true nature of the path they had chosen. It was not a path of decadence and pleasure, but a path of death, a trap set by decency to teach them a harsh lesson about the consequences of their actions. Their bodies were never found, lost forever in the depths of that cursed chasm. The town mourned their loss, haunted by the echoes of their laughter and the memory of their tragic fate. In the dead of night, a lone driver named Mark embarked on a journey through a desolate stretch of road. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow upon the empty landscape. As he navigated the winding path, a sense of unease settled over him. The road seemed to stretch endlessly into the darkness, with no signs of civilization in sight. Mark's grip tightened on the steering wheel as he felt an inexplicable presence lurking just beyond his peripheral vision. He glanced nervously at his rearview mirror, half expecting to see something sinister staring back at him. As he continued driving, strange occurrences began to unfold. Shadows danced along the edges of his vision, flickering in and out of existence. Unsettling whispers filled the air, their words indiscernible but dripping with malevolence. Suddenly, Mark's headlights flickered and died, plunging him into complete darkness. Panic surged through his veins as he fumbled for his phone to use its flashlight function. But when he turned it on, the feeble beam revealed a horrifying sight, a figure standing in the middle of the road. Frozen with fear, Mark watched as the figure slowly turned towards him. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, piercing through the darkness like beacons of malevolence. A chill ran down his spine as he realized that this was no ordinary encounter. Summoning every ounce of courage within him, Mark revved the engine and swerved to avoid the figure. But as he passed by, he caught a glimpse of his twisted visage, a face contorted with anguish and despair. It was a ghostly apparition, a lost soul trapped between realms. Heart pounding in his chest, Mark sped away from that haunting encounter. But no matter how fast he drove or how far he went, the supernatural occurrences persisted. Shadows darted across his windshield, clawing at his sanity. Whispers grew louder, filling his ears with their haunting melodies. In a desperate attempt to escape the horrors that pursued him, Mark took a detour down an unfamiliar road. The path grew narrower and more treacherous, winding through dense forests and overgrown foliage. The air grew heavy with an oppressive silence, broken only by the sound of his racing heartbeat. Just as he thought he had found respite, a figure emerged from the darkness, a specter with hollow eyes and tattered clothing. It stood in the middle of the road, blocking his way forward. Mark's breath caught in his throat as he realized there was no escape. With trembling hands, he rolled down his window and called out to the figure, pleading for mercy. But it remained motionless, its gaze fixed upon him with an intensity that sent shivers down his spine. Suddenly, the figure lunged towards the car, its ethereal form passing through the metal as if it were nothing but mist. Mark screamed in terror as icy tendrils wrapped around him, pulling him into a realm of darkness and despair.